The referee's job is to protect the fighters from each other and themselves. But every now and then, the lines between combatant and official get blurred. Here's what happens when fighters and referees collide. To kick things off, quite literally, this Muay Thai fight was going ahead pretty smoothly at first, until one of these athletes unloaded a powerful fight-ending head kick that stiffened its target immediately. But when the ref moved in to try to save the falling fighter from a crash landing with the canvas, he ended up injuring himself in the process. By the looks of things, in his haste to be a good referee, he appears to have popped out his shoulder. The lesson? Well, you gotta be there to help these fighters in their moment of need, but rushing in like this is always gonna put you at risk. And we're sure it's a lesson he learned in very painful fashion on this night. Want to know how to anger an entire sports community and ensure that you'll never work in it again? Well, take a leaf out of this dude's book. After scoring a submission win over his opponent by way of rear naked choke, this total idiot refused to let go when referee Mark Goddard tried to break things up. As soon as he did eventually get to his feet, he then started pushing the veteran ref and trying to make himself look like the victim. Crazy, right? Well, thankfully, the commission stepped in and officially overturned his win to a DQ loss. Are we gonna sit here and pretend that Mark Goddard couldn't squash this dude if he wanted to? Come on, man. We're gonna see a lot of examples of really good refereeing in this video. Refs who do the right thing at the right time. This, however, is not one of those examples. This boxer was stuck in a corner with an aggressive opponent in front of him. But when his adversary started throwing hands, his ability to use slick head movement was truly insane. In fact, it didn't look like any of these punches were landing cleanly. That takes skill, ladies and gentlemen. Unfortunately, the referee didn't see it that way, and thinking that the fighter was getting swarmed, he stepped in to stop the fight. You'd be angry too, right? A beautifully timed overhand right sent this poor fighter packing early in this bout. But as his opponent wheeled off in celebration, he regained his consciousness, attempting to regain his momentum with a takedown attempt. Only it wasn't the intended target he was trying to take down, but the referee. Oh man, these refs have it tough. Thankfully, this official had decent takedown defense, but was forced to apply a choke to get out of danger. So yeah, this fighter got finished not once, but twice during this bout. That's a bad night at the office. Of that, there can be little doubt. You gotta feel for this next guy. A random clinch caused this veteran ref to step in and try to break up the action. But in a totally accidental move, one of these fighters tried to punch the other guy on the break and caught this ref clean on the jaw, knocking him down. And you could just see the confusion written all over both guys' faces. The ref, on the other hand, didn't see this punch coming at all, and he had one truly disoriented look on his face, like he had no idea what just happened. It's the punches you don't see coming that hurt the most, folks. You might not ever see a slicker backtake from a referee than this absolute classic from veteran official Leon Roberts. After this fighter refused to stop hitting his opponent, despite getting the TKO win, Roberts wasted absolutely no time in taking his back in one fluid movement, alleviating the danger while sinking in a rear naked choke to ensure that the threat was neutralized. Not all refs are as handy with their BJJ as this guy, but when the situation kicks off, you really couldn't ask for a better referee. That's how you handle an unruly fighter, folks. This one is all kinds of ugly. After taking a hard shot in this fight that caused him to do the chicken dance, this clearly concussed fighter started freaking out at the referee for stoppage. Look, sometimes emotions run high, and when that's combined with the confusion of a TKO loss, stuff like this is gonna happen. But a few moments later, he actually made a beeline to the ref to try and get up in his face, nearly kicking off a brawl as a result. This one is just a total mess on several levels, and though you gotta be sympathetic to the confused and disoriented chicken dancer, there's only so much you can get away with. Every second you spend in a rear naked choke is a very dangerous thing, and for this fighter, despite trying to alert the ref that he was beaten by tapping, this official didn't seem to notice or care that he was submitting to the choke. When he eventually did step in, this losing fighter was so angered by his lack of professionalism, he actually shoved and later punched him in retaliation. It's not like the ref had a bad viewing angle or anything either. He actually just somehow didn't understand what was happening. Maybe the fighter overreacted in the end, but you can totally understand his frustration. Yet another example of a fighter who's just too aggressive for his own good. And here, the referee is forced to apply a very crude choke just so he can keep from attacking his opponent any further. Eventually, he gets some backup and the situation's calmed. But who knows why some of these fighters think they can actually get away with dishing out extra punishment in the cage. Martial arts is all about inner peace and discipline, and these guys most certainly do not fit that billing. Either this was the worst punch ever thrown, or this highly confident-looking dude actually wanted to punch that referee. To be honest, it looked like it was a total accident. But man, this fighter's body language before it happened would lead you to believe he's a world champion. The guy had an arrogant aura to him. Despite the fact that he was eating hard shots from his opponent, in the end the referee showed that his chin was on point, and he was likely able to continue officiating the fight without any issues. Sometimes an overly aggressive fighter needs a good public big brothering to remind him of his place. And in this post-fight scuffle, this dude was literally taunting his opponent's corner into a brawl. Thankfully, the ref noticed how close things were to kicking off and decided to run over and literally pick this unruly fighter up and walk him over to the other side of the cage. Unfortunately, he got away pretty quickly after, and that brawl did break out. In the end, nothing too major happened, and the officials were able to restore order. But to be honest, there are more than a few entries to this video that could have been solved if the ref just walked over to the aggressive fighter and picked him up like this. A hilarious turn of events. Falling to the floor and forcing the loser to eat several more punches, and eventually to lose brain cells. Okay, so this has a lot to unpack. The main point of note here is that the bigger fighter seems like a total douchebag, and the way he mocked his opponent by feigning a concussion was downright disrespectful. Now, what we think happened is that the ref saw him pretending to be dazed and confused, and took it seriously, calling off the fight. Or he didn't like the constant taunting and DQ'd him right then and there. Either way, he ate a hard punch to the face for his troubles, and all of a sudden, a brawl involving both fighters and the ref broke out, eventually leading to all three going over the ropes like a pro wrestling match. An ugly scene in one incredibly weird fight to begin with. Refs often get a lot of praise for correct decisions and quick thinking. But how about the granite chin on this guy? After eating a huge punch right on the jaw in a clinch break, this ref would have been forgiven if he'd gone down or made a big deal out of it. But instead, he ate that shot like a champ. And after drying his face with a towel, he cracked a smile for the cameras to let us know that he eats punches like that for breakfast. Who knows if this dude was an ex-fighter himself, but that's one highly durable referee right there. This was a pretty slick finish. A huge combo of punches that mixed up the damage perfectly to the head and midsection. But when the ref eventually awarded the TKO and the winning fighter jumped onto the side of the cage to celebrate, it turned out this clearly concussed losing fighter wasn't done competing. Unfortunately, it was the ref who he was trying to take down, and not his opponent. It's another example of just how confused these guys can get when they take tremendous amounts of punishment. But hey, we're sure the ref didn't take it personally. Who knows what was actually going through the head of Mike Tyson in this moment, but with his finishing instincts turned all the way up to 10, Iron Mike swarmed his opponent, eager to deliver as much punishment in as little time as possible. And whether he noticed the ref trying to peel him away from his clearly beaten opponent is one thing, but Tyson almost KO'd the official too, as he continued swinging. We could give Mike the benefit of the doubt here, because he did look kind of confused when all was said and done. But man, Prime Tyson was out for blood. This next one is a story of two different types of referee. The first guy was totally helpless when he tried to stop this boxer from dishing out extra punches to his opponent. Like, he literally stood there and had absolutely nothing he could do, as he was brushed aside by the much bigger fighter. The second referee, however, well, this is a man of action, folks. And after seeing his colleague getting disrespected like that, he jumped in and immediately body slammed this bully fighter to the mat in violent fashion. Seriously, that was like a WWE move. A truly effective way to bring a potentially volatile situation to an end. Conor McGregor might be the biggest star in the history of mixed martial arts, but even he has to bow to the rules every once in a while. And after storming the cage to celebrate with his teammate Charlie Ward, Conor entered before the referee, Mark Goddard, had a chance to make sure Ward's opponent was okay. Goddard, in this moment, deemed Conor to have overstepped his boundaries and proceeded to tell the Irishman exactly that. McGregor, who was clearly not sober and on a major ego trip, pushed the veteran ref and caused a scene of chaos before he was then escorted out of the arena. What is it with these little guys thinking that they have a hope in hell of overpowering a far bigger referee? This kickboxing bout seemed to be a pretty normal one, up until one of these dudes decided to try and sneak in a few extra shots. And when he realized that the ref was trying to restrain him, he still tried to run around him and assault his opponent. The ref was probably 3 times his size, so obviously it took him a little longer to cross the ring and reach his destination. But when he did, he literally just picked him up and totally manhandled him, throwing this helplessly stupid fighter to the mat, saving his opponent from any further harm. This is one of the craziest post-fight brawls we've ever seen. At first, this ref was doing a good job of keeping things separated. These two fighters and several of their teammates were threatening to turn this event into an infamous night for the sport. But then, out of nowhere, when the ref realized that there was some very real danger afoot, he flipped the switch, and all of a sudden this official started throwing hands at one of the ring invaders. And what followed was a scene of total chaos. Who knows what set this all off, but this is a 10 out of 10 in our books when it comes to total craziness. The Rolling Thunder is a high-risk, high-reward kind of move. The type of kick that can end an opponent's night in an instant or put you in danger of ending up in a sticky situation on bottom. In this case, though, neither of these outcomes happened. No, this referee had the misfortune of standing a little too close to the action. And when this kick was unloaded, it landed right on his chin, sitting him down for a highlight reel finish. Except, well, it wasn't a finish. It was just a major pain for the commission, who now had an unconscious referee on their hands. A total accident, but a wild moment nonetheless. This next one is just a total mess. What could have been a run-of-the-mill stoppage got really, really ugly when the winning fighter decided he wasn't through just yet. He started wailing away on his clearly beaten opponent, landing more and more shots. When the ref first tried to pull him off, he was unsuccessful. Left with no other option, he went full BJJ black belt mode, taking the back of the fight and restraining him before he could do any more damage. But this skirmish wasn't yet at an end, and shortly after, one of the losing fighter's teammates lost his temper too, although he was also restrained pretty quickly. If the ref's jiu-jitsu wasn't so sharp, this one could have turned into an all-out brawl. And finally, we just so happened to save the most outrageous clip for last. The knockout win here was a clean one, and the follow-up shots sealed the deal for this fighter. But the problem was that he wasn't done dishing out punishment. This absolute scumbag kept hitting his clearly unconscious opponent, and even attacked the referee just so he could land a few extra shots. In the end, it took several people to restrain him. Thankfully, they managed to get a hold of him shortly after. Who knows what this dude was thinking, but man, there is absolutely zero chance he ever gets licensed to fight again. What a total lunatic.